Hello students, so in this video I am going to talk about the process called photosynthesis. So the photosynthesis word is made of the two words, the photo and synthesis. So photo means light and synthesis means synthesizing something, making something. So basically here we are making something in presence of the sunlight. So the photosynthesis happen mainly in the plant, green parts of the plants. In presence of sunlight, they utilize the CO2 and water and they form the glucose and the oxygen. So they take CO2 from the atmospheric air, they take water from the roots, and in presence of sunlight, they make glucose and oxygen. So this whole process is called photosynthesis, where another requirement we have a chlorophyll, which is a green color pigment present in the leaf. Okay, so basically, this process is comprised of the component three ingredients required: light, CO2, temperature, and water. So, what is the limiting factors present in this process? So, basically, limiting factors are those variables which are present in the limited amount and they can affect the whole process. As the name suggests, they are which are the factors which limit the reaction. So, occurrence and the rate of process depend on completely on concentration or abundance of these variables. So these are basically four factors which can limit the photosynthesis. The first is light, carbon dioxide, temperature, and availability of the H2O. So we are going to look each of them one by one. So let's talk about the first. The limiting factor is a light as a limiting factor. So as you can see in the graph that the rate of photosynthesis is linearly directly proportional to the presence of the light. But after this point, as you can see here, there is no change. So what happened after certain a point, light intensity, if you're increasing, there is no further change in the rate of photosynthesis because we have not increased the CO2, we have not increased the water, we have not increased the chlorophyll or other factors. So what if you're increasing just light, it is not going to help. And this is true for any chemical reaction which is happening in the living processes. So another factor which we're going to discuss about the carbon dioxide. So as you can see from the graph that this is rate of reaction is basically increasing as CO2 is increasing. But after a certain point, even though you're increasing the CO2, other factor we need to be added. For example, at this point we have not increased other parameter light, chlorophyll and etc. So as you can see from the graph, this is how limiting factor of the CO2 will look like. And it is true also because just now we discussed that CO2 plus water, it is forming the glucose C6H12O6 plus oxygen. So this is a major component which is coming from the carbon dioxide. Next factor is about temperature. We all know that whatever chemical activity happening in the cell, they are completely dependent on the enzymes which is present in the cells. And enzyme work at certain pH and certain temperature. So this photosynthesis again going to show you increase at certain point because these are all controlled by the enzymes. And maximum activity you will see around 37 degrees Celsius, which is maximum activity. So you will see, yes, activity is increasing inside the cells, but after a certain point, which is the optimum temperature, this activity will start slowing down. So this curve look like this. Now, this is the summary of the all limiting factor just now we have finished. That if you look the graph for the limiting reactant, if the light, so as I rightly said, that as you increase the light, the rate of photosynthesis will increase at certain time, certain part. After that, even though I'm increasing the light intensity, it will not going to proceed because other parameters are still constant. The temperature, what we have discussed just now, that increasing or decreasing the optimum temperature results in the lower rate of the photosynthesis. Either this is the optimum value, which is around 25 to 35 degrees Celsius. If we are going this side, it or we are going to above this optimum temperature, it is going to show you a change in the decreasing side. Now, how the CO2 concentration is related? As you can see here, that as we're increasing the carbon dioxide, it will show you the increase in the rate of photosynthesis. But after a certain level, again, it will become saturated. It means at this point, we need to. So, as we can see here, that if we increase the light intensity, our rate of photosynthesis is increasing, right? So we have adding the one condition with the CO2 concentration. So after at this time, as we can see here, that even though we are adding light, but we are not adding CO2, so it will not going to give you the straight graph. So we add a little bit more CO2. So what we are seeing that, look, again you will seeing the increase in the light concentration, sorry, in the rate of photosynthesis. It means what? Till this point of the graph, which is highlighted here, light is the limiting factors, because as we are changing the light, the rate of photosynthesis is directly dependent on that factors. If you look at these two graphs, these here the carbon dioxide is the limiting factor. We can tell this because when the concentration of CO2 is increased, the rate of photosynthesis is increases. So over this range of the graph, light intensity is not limiting factor. If the light intensity increase, there is no effect on rate of photosynthesis. It means we need to change other parameters, maybe the chlorophyll, maybe the water, or some other factors. Now let's see the questions which are asked, which has been asked in the exam. That in this diagram, as you can see here, that this is the CO2 concentration, this is the rate of photosynthesis in the Y side. So they are asking you which of the factor can be considered as limiting factor in the above diagram. So let's see this. If you are increasing the CO2 concentration, yes, it is increasing, but this see we are doing with the low light intensity. So you are seeing that it is going here, 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 and then a stop. In this part it is medium light intensity, so higher light. It means it if you increase the light intensity, it is going to limit the reaction, it is going to change the rate of reaction. So yes, the option C is the correct. Now let's see explanation which is in detail. That the Blackman's law state that rate of photosynthesis is controlled by many factors which depend on the factors which is limited quantity. For example, the photosynthesis depend on the CO2 concentration, light intensity, water, and presence of the chlorophyll. If all the factors are present but light intensity is low, then light will become the limiting factors. And the rate of photosynthesis will depend only on the light, which you can see here. That as we increase the light intensity, we are seeing this, yes, it is changing the rate of photosynthesis. So option C is the correct. Now let's see one of the other question which has been asked multiple times. This is the a kind of similar question asked in another exam. That this is the rate of photosynthesis and the X side is your light intensity. But we are changing the CO2 concentration to look what is the limiting factor at which stage. So as you can see here, point number 1 and point number 2, as you're increasing the light intensity, yes, it is a change in the rate of photosynthesis, it is increasing. Like X in this graph also, if you're increasing the light intensity, it is not increasing here because in Z the CO2 is less, so we need to add more CO2. So when you increases more CO2, you are seeing that yes, there is increase in the rate of photosynthesis. So X is your light intensity and Y should be the CO2 concentration, and Z also telling you that look, if you should increase more CO2, then you will see again further increase in the graph, which is missing in this question. Similar thing is here, option number C, because 1 and 2, as you can see here, rate of photosynthesis directly dependent on light intensity. In 3, we need to increase the CO2 because further it is not increasing. So now let's see explanation. Increasing the light intensity at either point 1 and 2 speed of the photosynthesis, but varying the light intensity at point 3 does not. Therefore, light intensity is limiting factor at the point 1 and 2. At 3 point, merely doubling the concentration speed of photosynthesis. On other hand, the graph show that no evidence that varying concentration at point 1 and 2 and for speed of the photosynthesis. So in this graph, the CO2 is limiting because light is no longer increasing the rate, and plateau is changed for different CO2. So therefore, CO2 is limiting the photosynthesis for curve 3 and 4. So basically, they are testing you that how these two factors can limit the rate of photosynthesis. So I hope this two graph is clear for you. Um, Let me know if you have any doubt. We can discuss further. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much.